Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Shodana Nana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunati Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Sata Shishi Mad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Adwaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopagopana Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mayapurdam ki jai, Navadvipdam ki jai, Gangamai ki jai, Yamunamai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bolo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga and His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. So we're in the 10th canto, chapter 58 and text 47. Tata Pritaha Sutang Raja Dathau Krishnaya Vishmita Tang Prachakudanad Bhagavan Vidhi Bhat Sadrishim Brabhu Tataprita Sutam Raja Dadao Krishnaya Vishmita Tam Prachagrinad Bhagavan Vidhivat Sadrishim Prabhu Tataprita Sutam Raja Dadhau Krishnaya Vishmita Tam Prachagrinad Bhagavan Vidhivat Sadrishim Prabhu Tataprita Sutam Raja Dadhau Krishnaya Vishmita Tam Prachagrinad Bhagavan Vidhivat Sadrishim Prabhu Tata, then, Pitaha, pleased, Sutam, his daughter, Raja, the king, Dadhau, gave, Krishnaya, to Krishna, Vishmita, astonished, Tam, she, Prachagrinat, accepted, Bhagavan, the Supreme Person, Vidhivat, in accordance with Vedic prescriptions, Sadrishim, compatible, Prabhu, the Supreme Lord, So translation. Then King Nagnajit, pleased and astonished, presented his daughter to Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted this suitable bride in the proper Vedic fashion. So we can repeat. Then King Nagnajit, pleased and astonished, presented his daughter to Lord Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted this suitable bride in the proper Vedic fashion. So, purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The word Sadrisham indicates that the lovely princess was a fitting bride for the Lord because she possessed wonderful transcendental qualities that complemented his. As Srila Jiva Goswami points out, the word Vishmita indicates that King Nagnajit was certainly astonished at the many extraordinary events suddenly taking place in his life. So, when I was reading this, I was thinking of a couple of things. I was thinking about my spiritual master's class yesterday, and also something that stood out to me in the purport of Satya possessing these wonderful transcendental qualities that complemented Krishna's, and was thinking about how, for me, can I possess transcendental qualities and actually complement Krishna's. And it reminds me of how we think of things in terms of Prakriti and Purush, and how Krishna's, the Purush or the controller, and everybody or everything is Prakriti, Prakriti, and how we're all part and parcel of Krishna, meant to be, parts of his body, in essence, like in spiritual terms. And Prabhupada talks about that, or gives the metaphor in how, the finger may want to make this decision to eat by itself, but you can't do that. You have to feed the stomach in order for everything to work. And so Krishna has to be at the center of everything for everything to work. And so if we look back at this one word, how the king gave to Krishna his daughter. And so I was thinking about how when we give everything to Krishna, including those things that are most precious to us, that we can obtain these qualities, we can obtain these transcendental qualities and then actually complement our life's actions in conjunction with Krishna, and be this cohesive thing instead of in conflict and working against that and turning our back towards Krishna. And so then it made me want to go a little bit deeper into thinking about developing these qualities and these symptoms. And one of the first verses that came to mind, if I can get there, is in the Bhagavad Gita, which is text 254. And Arjuna is talking to Krishna and asking him about what are the symptoms of somebody who's actually submerged in transcendence, and how do they speak, and what is their language, how do they sit, and how do they walk, how do they talk, how is it they, what are their symptoms of this transcendental person? And so Prabhupada shares in the purport that there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, and similarly one who is Krishna consciousness has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms, and he's known by the fact that he's rich, and a diseased man by his symptoms of being diseased, or a learned man by being, by his learned knowledge, a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. one can know his specific symptoms from Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he doesn't speak, and certainly well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he says something, he reveals this at once. And that's, you can remember that story about the painted jackal being the lion, and then the paint gets removed, and then it's really obvious that he's a jackal by his also cackle, which is like very different than a roar. And the immediate symptoms of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him, and then automatically other symptoms then automatically follow as stated, right? So in other words, as we tie ourselves to Krishna and this practice of sadhana bhakti, we start to develop all these wonderful qualities, and then these symptoms start to automatically manifest. And in this verse, we can see how, the relationship of somebody who's given all these things and the qualities that they have, and understanding all these things. And this verse also reminded me, because Rudrani asked my spiritual master a question about his dress, being out in public and how that affected people's responses. And he was saying not so much, but what stood out for me and why it tied to this and so many things that he was sharing yesterday was that because somebody is connected to Krishna consciousness so deeply and internally, regardless of what your external dress is, people know. They understand that something's going on, aside from, walking up and down the airport chanting japa and them thinking that you may be crazy because you're speaking to yourself. But we can truly, they're in the presence of devotees, people know that something different, and that's because we're connected to Krishna, and that's illuminated, in our actions and on this very subtle subconscious, platform. And so again, how is it and why is it that we want to connect to Krishna? That was something else that really stood out in his class yesterday, was how in this situation and in this instance, and in all instances, especially when we take up Krishna consciousness, but no matter what, Krishna is actually covering everybody's needs. He's addressing Satya's needs and letting her know that everything's going to be all right by conquering these 7 bulls. He's impressing everybody, and then he's helping Nagnajet attain his particular goal by having his daughter married, and then, not having him not worry about his brother, interfering. And so in all these circumstances, that's an impetus for us to understand, why we should do this. It's because Krishna's always got our back. He's always protecting us. He's always taking care of our needs, even though that may seem contradictory sometimes. But, we know about these different symptoms by these great devotees, and then we get this wonderful conversation that Arjuna's having with Krishna, to expand on that. And so in text 2, is it 56? So sorry, I've got a couple of different verses that, oh yeah. So in text 256, purport, Prabhupada, the verse is, one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. And one of the things that Prabhupada talks about is that there is this description of a Muni, and it's somebody who's able to agitate the mind's bananas in various ways for mental speculation without actually coming to a factual conclusion, and that they each have their own angle of vision, and if they don't have their own angle of vision, they're not actually a Muni. But then, of course, Prabhupada goes on to share that a devotee or a shtitadir, who is somebody who is steady in the mind, is mentioned here and is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all business of creative speculation. And so he is one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculation and has come to the conclusion that Lord Sri Krishna, or Vasudeva, is everything. He is called a Muni fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna-conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries by the grace of the Lord are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it is due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sense gratification, and attachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna conscious has neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in his determination. And so, again, I'm trying to dive in and explore these different qualities that the devotees have, for at least me personally, to encourage myself of thinking about how I can be a better devotee and what we can do, and not letting things get in the way of our devotional service, so that we can, again, possess these transcendental qualities and complement our life's actions with Krishna's and be in this cohesive relationship with him. And, of course, this is something, actually, as I was reading this, that really resonated with me, because quite often I'll get angry at the fact that my body interferes with my ability to perform devotional service, right? And I can get really fluffy about it. And it's like, but reading this, it's like a reminder of, just understanding that I've performed so many misdeeds in my past lives and this life, and so it's a matter of just tolerating and being able to stay determined to practice our Krishna consciousness. And so again, it's this understanding that we, as long as we put Krishna in the center, we'll have this determination. We'll be like the lotus flower, where the water just kind of rolls off and we're unaffected by these things, and we'll have this internal joy, so that and joy related to Krishna, and then the attachments or the detachments just don't really matter anymore. And so if we go to 264, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of Krishna. So here again, this is the result of this practice and developing all these wonderful transcendental qualities, is that we can obtain the mercy of the Lord. And so it's already explained, and Prabhupada explains in the purport, it's already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable, and if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not act is within his control, because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This Krishna consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. And so again, and I was thinking, this goes on to a couple other verses that I was thinking about, but also going back to my spiritual master's lecture of how when we're this process of whether we're attached or not attached, it's really interesting because we're actually going against the flow. Again, it also differentiates and understands why other people can understand, not necessarily by our external dress, but that there's something internally different, is because we are going upstream and everybody else is going downstream in the material flow, and we're actually turning and going against the stream. And so that's going to be really obvious to everybody. They're going to notice that something's very different about our activities. And we do that, and one of the things he was also emphasizing is that we do that out of great faith and our attachment to Krishna. And with that faith, we're doing everything that Krishna wants, and because of that, everything will be accomplished. So, and he was talking about Sharanagati and accepting everything favorable and rejecting everything unfavorable. And so, with this deep faith, and then how do we get this faith? Again, it's like this whole reciprocative, ongoing, dynamic relationship where as we're practicing our devotional service, these qualities become more and more present. And then being more present, they're what drive us internally, to go deeper and deeper with our relationship with Krishna. And then we start to understand what's driving us. And I guess what it drove me to think of other verses, and this was something else that was really enlivening about Santosha's class the other time, is that he said it's really joyful. This process of Krishna consciousness is joyful, and there's this joyful to actually prepare for class or to be in class, because for me, it's like one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and we just have all these realizations, and so it becomes enlivening. Again, it's this joy and enlivenment that comes from developing and connecting to Krishna in any way that we can, whether it's through the chanting, and the root of all of this is attentiveness. I keep going back to this to myself because I always think about the 10 offenses, but I always think about the root cause of all those offenses is inattentiveness. And so, being attentive to our relationship with Krishna, our relationship with chanting the Mahamantra, our relationship and being personally present in our devotional service, in everything that we do, in our thoughts and our actions, of being personally present. And then we awaken our personal relationship with Krishna, by doing everything personally for him, making him the center of everything. Then we go back to developing and possessing these transcendental qualities, and having this, complementary life to Krishna's. That was so striking to me in the purport. And so, again, going back to some of the symptoms, is in 269, it talks about what is night for all the living beings is, the awakening for the sage, and then, what's the awakening for them is actually that time of introspection for the sage at night. And then the sage also understands what inaction is and action is, and what's appropriate. And so we know we're fine-tuning in this process of Krishna consciousness. We're fine-tuning all of our actions, and when to act, when not to act, when to speak, when not to speak, when to eat, when not to eat, how much, how little to sleep, and all these other different things. And I was talking to somebody, I was talking to Jagat Guru, and we were talking about, the different struggles that the bodies have, and I was talking about some of the symptoms that I have with migraine, and, we were going over that. And again, going back to understanding how Krishna is taking care of all of our needs, one of the things about migraine is, at least for the symptoms that I have within my body is that if I sleep too much, I can get one, but if I sleep too little, I can get one. If I eat too much, I can get one, and if I don't eat enough, I can get one. It's just, and if I do things that I shouldn't, take things into my body, then, I can do it. If I get too stressed, I can't do much about the weather. Too much weather, too little. But still, so Krishna, in every single circumstance, devotee, practicing, non-devotee that doesn't even know they're a devotee yet, no matter what, he's doing all these things to ultimately fulfill our needs so that we can possess these transcendental qualities and have this complementary life. I don't know why that it's just like, I don't know, like being so complementary, or, I see it, yin and yang, or just, like this perfect equal situation of reciprocation. And so there's another verse that came to me, which is 5:3. So sorry. There's so many. I just kept going, and that's what's so wonderful about Krishna consciousness, is that the realization one after the other just stimulates you to keep going. And it's, a symptom of the fact that this is a dynamic process and that Krishna is unlimited. All his qualities are unlimited. So that when we tap into him, we get this joy that keeps increasing because it's unlimited, and it just keeps tapping in from one thing to the other and tying into the next. Because actually, ultimately, everything is connected to Krishna. So in text 3, one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to always be renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty Arjuna. One who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his actions. Such a renouncer, dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole, and he is part and parcel of Krishna. So knowing where we belong and understand that. Such knowledge is perfect because it is qualitatively and quantitatively correct. The concept of oneness with Krishna is incorrect because the part cannot be equal to the whole. Knowledge that one is one in quality yet different in quality is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire nor lament. There is no duality in his mind because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world. And so what this stimulated for me also was being freed from results, because we're so trained up by the material world for results, and for results, for the fruits, wanting to taste the fruits, even in devotional service. But coming to a higher platform is wanting to make sure that Krishna's pleased. And so we're going from this position of being self-interested to actually being interested in Krishna's needs. So you've got this beautiful, amazing relationship where Krishna's doing everything he can to take care of the devotee's needs. And then on the other hand, the devotee is so, when we start to shift, is so concerned for Krishna's needs. And for me, for some reason, the visual on that is an hourglass. And all the sands of material contamination, moving from one side of the hourglass into the other, and then freeing up the space for developing those transcendental qualities, which, interesting enough, is that, spiritual life, again, is not always understood by the external view. So the other side of that hourglass may look empty, and it may not be so obvious that somebody's practicing or the things or devotional service that are going on, because this is an internal life. Everything is internal. And so it may not be present externally is what I was trying to get to. But again, once we move all these millions of grains of sand, from this one side of the when we turn our life upside down, go against the flow and practice Krishna consciousness, we start moving, that balance, and clearing out that space for possessing these transcendental qualities and becoming one with Krishna in intention, not that we become Krishna, but in our relationship and having this amazing, wonderful, reciprocating, symbiotic, reciprocative relationship with Krishna. And then we get to that place where then, all these things, whether we have the fruits, whether we don't have the fruits, whether our body's bothering us, whether our body's not bothering us, whatever it is, whether we're not able to, perform the same physical devotional service, we can have our internal devotional service, and then we get to that ultimate mood of understanding that, whether Krishna embraces me or not, as I'm falling at his feet, and whether he tramples or breaks my heart, whether he's visible to me or not, he's still my worshipable Lord. And again, here's this internal thing, is that Krishna may or may not be present for us, and especially because that stood out in all of this for me, of thinking about developing and possessing these transcendental qualities, is Krishna's not present before me by any stretch of the imagination, because I'm so far, but he's constantly giving me, and I'm sure you've all personally experienced this, he's constantly giving us realization, he's constantly giving us knowledge, he's constantly giving us different strategies for reaching our goals, he's constantly giving us feedback through the other devotees, and again through internal reciprocation, so that we have that faith to keep going and developing our Krishna consciousness, and these qualities. And I guess, again, for me, what this verse is saying is it's actually to me, kind of nutshelling the fact of what a devotee's relationship is. There's somebody who has these most wonderful transcendental qualities that complement Krishna's. What greater gift can we have than to be in this symbiotic, beautiful, transcendental relationship, utilizing as we develop all these qualities just to give them back to Krishna. And he's trying to give them to us, and we're trying to give them to him, and he's trying to give us, just keeps going. Which reminds me of when Bhakti True Swami was here, and Gurudev and Bhakti True Swami would be running around trying to touch each other's feet, right? I mean, and that's what this whole life of devotional service, of giving gifts and receiving gifts, and having this beautiful symbiotic relationship is like these, and that's, again, as we're drilling down, is the manifestation of these symptoms of having a relationship with Krishna, and what that means, and why other people can see this without seeing it, from an external perspective, because it's internal. And all these qualities, as we remove all these thousands of grains of material conditioning, allows that love of Krishna on that lotus flower in our hearts to express itself, and people know that something's different, because we are in the process and have obtained some transcendental qualities. Maybe not all of them, and maybe we have some way to go, but because we're all part and parcel, they understand that on some level. And so we have this beautiful mercy and grace, by the fact that we've practiced this process of bhakti yoga through the mercy of his pure devotees, because that's the other thing that's incumbent, and my spiritual master was talking about as well, as far as hearing from, the pure devotees, is the association of devotees. That's our safety net as we walk this razor's edge of devotional service, of being in the world but not of the world, of trying to be not of the world, is the association. And the association means personal, deep personal attachment, and association in Krishna consciousness, deeply personal. So association, deeply personal, with the chanting of the holy name, with our relationship of performing our devotional service, and in our relationship with our spiritual master and the devotees. That's what this is about, developing these qualities in this complementary life to Krishna consciousness. So that's any questions or thoughts or... Mm-hmm. Because Krishna is in the heart of every living entity and every living thing, and everything from karma to time, to everything that's about Krishna, the only thing that Krishna wants is to bring us into a relationship with him. And so what he's going to do is he's going to create circumstances, and to us they may seem unfavorable, that are favorable for bringing us into a relationship with him, because that's our greatest need. Our greatest need. And at the same time, he may take away material needs that we think are material needs. At the same time, he may give us somebody more opulent in relative to material needs. But underlying all of those is his desire to bring us back into a relationship with him. And so, no matter what it is, and then there's also giving us the need, he's giving us the need for autonomy too. Because he knows that in order for us to have love with him, we have to make that choice personally, right? So, and so there's a need for autonomy, to be given to the living entity so that they can develop a personal relationship, because otherwise it's a demand and it's forced and it's not love. But again, the whole essence is coming back to the need of having a relationship with him, because when we do, it's all perfect. It's all in sync. And so we may lose some things, like our physical ability, but then he's probably trying to push us internally because he knows that's where, we're going to have the best relationship with him. And then with another person, he may give amazing physical ability because he knows that's, they can perform so many activities, to perform devotional service. It's all at that root cause of, meeting our needs spiritually versus materially, if that makes sense.
Thanks for a nice class, Gopi.
Sure, you're welcome. Thank you.
One thing that struck me is that recently I read an article that Dhanadhar Maharaj had sent to me, and it was an article about intellectuals turning to God, and there were some big names. And what struck me about their, quote, turning to God was how shallow their understanding was, almost to the point of being, well, Christian culture is good culture and helps, the world be a better place because there's better music or whatever.
Right.
And how, as devotees, we may not do very much, but because Krishna is giving us realization, that's what's really important.
Yeah.
A devotee may be simple and not very accomplished in so many ways, but that doesn't matter because a devotee really knows what the truth is.
Well, yeah, and they're getting to that root. They're getting to the root of real love, not selfish love, and not doing it to get credit for loving everybody, which is what happens a lot of times in the Christian faith. Is you want the credit for being a good person, right? Yeah, or doing service or welfare activity. And Prabhupada talks about what's real welfare activity, which is what the devotees are doing. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the association of the devotees, all glories to Shri Radha Golokananda.
Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindanalayataptam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaramam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Andani Asa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Kiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami
Namahom Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prastaya Bhutalai Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste, Parvati Devi, Gauravani Vacha, Nani Visesha, Shunyavani, Asachaga, Desatarane. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sari Go back to Vrindas Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Ragate. Nayarada Agalokinana Agalokinana Rate. Nayarada Hey Rate Nayarade. Nayarade. Hey Rate Nayarade. Jayarade, Jayarade, Jaya Sri Radhe. Jai. Oh.
Chaitodarpanam Bhajanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasa. Very beautiful. Hare Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapitani Amita Smaranena Kala Etad Rishita Bhagriva Bhagavan Mamapi Durtaiva Mitrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Bhatitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayatava Bada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrishyam Vichintaya Nayanam Galadashru Daraya Varanam Gadgada Hridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahaneba Vishyati Muga Nimishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyava Padamratam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatatava Vidadatulam Patomat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and